Welcome back on this Thursday. We are hitting Exodus chapter 14 today. This is one of the most well-known passages in the book of Exodus, probably second to the Ten Commandments, but yet there's still a lot in here. I'm going to read most of the chapter, but I do recommend that before we go any farther, that you read over the others on your own. As we begin, we see the Lord is speaking to Moses. We'll start with verse 4. I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. And I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his host, and the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. And they did so. Again, this is part of God's plan. God's plan to show to Israel and to show to Egypt that he is the one true living God, that he is the God who is all powerful. Let's continue with verse 5. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, the mind of Pharaoh and his servants was changed toward the people. And they said, "What is this we have done, that we have to let Israel go from serving us?" So he made ready his chariots and took his army with him, and took 600 chosen chariots and all the other chariots of Egypt with officers over all of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the people of Israel while the people of Israel were going out defiantly. The Egyptians pursued them, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them and camped at the sea. So economic collapse was being threatened, right? This 600,000 men, not meant to mention the women and children, were leaving. His workforce was going to be gone. More crippling than COVID was for that first month, as they were to try to do all that they could do was through labor of the Israelites. Economic collapse was threatened, so Pharaoh changed his mind and he pursued them. And God knew it was going to happen. God knew that Pharaoh was going to do this, and he had a plan for what to do. He led them to the Red Sea, led the Israelites to the Red Sea, and had them stopped there. Now, where this is at the Red Sea, or the Sea of Reeds, as it is called often, that is not fully known. I have a place on the map that I'm showing you where it says that it is in this area they believe that it happened. Now, you might say, well, that's not part of the Red Sea. Remember that this was 3,500 years ago or so. A long time had passed, and it's possible that some of it had filled in or something else had happened. The point is, we're not really sure where. This is the best understanding of where it might be. Verse 10. When Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly. And the people of Israel cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us in bringing us out of Egypt? Is not this what we said to you in Egypt? Leave us alone that we may serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." And Moses said to the people, "Fear not. Stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today shall be never seen again. The Lord will fight for you, and you only have to be silent." The people are not trusting the Lord. After they had seen what the Lord had done by delivering them from Pharaoh's hand in Egypt, leading them out into freedom, they grumble and they complain. They're worried more about their life. But the Lord replies. I love what he says, what Moses says in verse 14. The Lord will fight for you, and you only have to be silent. Isn't that amazing? The Lord fights our battles, and we only have to be silent. Watch him do the work of salvation through Jesus, the work of faith in our hearts. Let him do the work. and be silent and let him see what he will do. You don't have to do anything, Moses is saying. The Lord will fight for you. Let's move forward to verse 21. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the people of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, the waters being a wall to them on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went in after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And in the morning watch, the Lord in the pillar of fire of cloud looked down on the Egyptian forces and threw the Egyptian forces into a panic, clogging their chariot wheels so that they drove heavily. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from before Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians." See, God was at work. I like how it mentions that he looked down at them, showing his power over them. He was there working against the Egyptians, confusing them, clogging the wheels, convincing Egypt's men that he is the one true God. And they recognized that it was the power of God keeping them. For to be honest, it should have been an easy fight for them to go in and destroy. Verse 26. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the water may come back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its normal course when the morning appeared. And as the Egyptians fled into it, the Lord threw the Egyptians into the midst of the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots of the horsemen and all the host of Pharaoh that had followed them into the sea. Not one of them remained. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground through the sea, the waters being a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. The destruction of the army, saving the people of God by passing through the water. Saving God's people through this simple act, showing them once again that he is the one who is fighting for them. Verse 30 as we wrap up. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel saw the great power that the Lord used against the Egyptians. So the people feared the Lord, and they believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. Three things in that last verse. Israel saw the great power of the Lord. They recognized that it was not their own doing or some coincidence. It was the power of the Lord. They feared the Lord and his power, that respectful fear and awe of his power. And finally, they believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. They trusted the Lord to deliver. We'll see how long that lasts, right? Come back tomorrow. We'll look at chapter 15, the celebration of the victory, but yet the first grumbling as well.